Very grateful to her generosity in giving way. She quite rightly points out this is a Labour initiative. But does she recall, given the point she's just made about trying to move people away from the skies and onto rail, that the original Arup proposal would have linked HS2 with HS1, so you would have got onto a train in Manchester and got off that same train in Paris. It was the noble Lord Adonis who actually made changes to stop that from happening and creating an environmental catastrophe in counties such as Staffordshire. Grateful for the Right Honourable Lady being so generous. Yes, I totally agree with her. She's absolutely right about there being a need for a crossrail in the north because east-west communications are so bad. But I just want to ask her one thing. She's quite right to say that investment in the capital programme of HS2 will generate jobs and skills, which we so much need. But she also says it will create employment opportunities afterwards. Does she not fear that Britain might go down the French route, whereby jobs are in fact sucked south into London, rather than generating jobs in the north? To her giving way, but I want to just re-emphasise the question asked by my honourable friend for Stone. I understand the logic of what she's saying, a peer review and all the rest of it, but supposing it comes back and says, oh, it must be done in a completely different way, like, for example, the original Arup route to which I was referring earlier, that won't be possible if we've passed it as an act. Surely she should be opposing this bill, then saying that she'll have a peer review and then decide whether or not to support the legislation. I give way to my honourable friend is making complete sense on this. He mentioned earlier on Lord Adonis. Is he aware that the original plan for HS2, designed by Arup, would have gone up the M40, would have connected with Heathrow, which was the point my honourable friend from Shropshire made, and also would have connected with HS1, not by linking round south at great expense, as the honourable lady suggested, but going directly through St Pancras. Does my honourable friend also share my concern, I don't know whether it's because of HS2 or not, that at present the Department for Transport have no plans for the replacement of the ageing Pendolino fleet?
Yes, I am, and I would actually say that I think the Pendolino fleet has served, which was introduced by the previous Labour government, has done a great job. And I personally am very disappointed that Virgin Trains and Stagecoach are not going to be involved in the next phase of this service, because I think they've done a very good job. In the 9 years in which I've had the honour to represent my constituents in this House, I would say using that service 2 times, 4 times a week, it has been late a handful of times. It is an excellent and reliable service. Others may have had different experiences. That is my experience over the past 9 years.
For giving way. The position he points out about Hopton is very similar to that of my own villages. And the problem is exacerbated by the fact there doesn't seem to be any coordination within the HS2 company itself. So, on occasions, Deputy Speaker, you will get advice from engineers or liaison people from HS2 telling villagers that this is the route HS2 will take, and then only a week later somebody else from HS2 will give a completely different answer. And this only exaggerates and exacerbates, perhaps is the better word, the worries of constituents.
He's absolutely right, and I've had a number of similar cases. In fact, I was about to refer to one constituent of mine who doesn't mind being mentioned, Mr. Jim Prinold, who has a farm which is bisected by HS2 and has been trying to negotiate a proper dispensation for the problem that is caused by HS2. After several years, we're talking now more than 6 years since the route was initially published, there is still no solution for Mr. Prinold and his family. And again, I would urge the Minister to instruct HS2 to sort this out. This can be done. It can be done with goodwill. This can be done very easily and quickly.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, you'll know that I'm not a controversial person, and far be it from me for one moment to cause any internecine warfare between my two great friends on the back benches. But I am going to have to take the side, I'm afraid, of my honourable friend, the member for Stafford, just on the case of the NFU. I've been involved both on Phase 1 and Phase 2A. My staff and I personally have been involved in trying to get people to meet HS2 and meetings with the NFU and HS2. It just does not often happen. Firstly, there's been a huge turnover within HS2 of staff, including managing directors and chairmen, and trying to get, as I mentioned earlier, any form of coordination between the one lot of HS2 people and another lot of HS2, let alone their meeting at the NFU locally, is often impossible. Does he not agree?
Controversial member, Jeremy Lefroy.
Thank you very much. Well, sadly, I do have to agree that sometimes what my honourable friend from Lichfield has said is the case. But I would hope that with the Minister's intervention, and she has been very kind to intervene on a number of cases, we will see matters speeded up. And
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. She will know that the government argues, and indeed the Labour Party as well, that the reason for HS2 is to relieve the congestion on the West Coast Main Line. But is she aware that, in fact, double tracking from just north of Rugby down to Euston, where 2 extra platforms are being prepared anyway, would resolve that problem?
My constituents have often argued that there are solutions that can be put forward using the West Coast Main Line as it stands, and that it shouldn't be necessary to actually have the additional infrastructure that HS2 necessitates. Yes.
I mean, does my honourable friend not find it extraordinary that the original proposal for HS2 by Arrow was that it was going to travel up parallel to the M40 on an existing transport corridor, would have connected with Heathrow, would have connected with the Channel Tunnel, and yet it was the Labour Lord, the Lord Adonis, who changed it into this incredibly environmentally damaging route.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention again. With so much damage, at a time when increasingly we are becoming aware of how important it is to address issues like the environment, protection and climate change.
I am just bemused by his talking about 1 or 2 amendments and tweaking. Does he not think it is more than a tweak when you had a railway line originally proposed to use an existing transport corridor up the M40, suddenly with a ruler to go through straight lines, straight up through the most virgin of countryside? That was more than a tweak.
Summing up.
But I would like to ask my honourable friend, she will know that there is no direct benefit to Lichfield because the train doesn't actually stop in the area. And she will also know, because I gave her a copy of a motion that was passed by Lichfield District Council, and they ask that all enabling works for HS2 in Lichfield District should be paused until the notice to proceed to main works has been approved. And it hasn't been approved yet and won't be until December. Can I ask her to comment on that and perhaps give reassurance to my council that no works will go on in the district?
The notice to proceed and the business case will be in the public domain later on this year, and that is why we need to have enabling works. It just supports the pre-work that needs to take place before the line can be built. And I know that my honourable friend loves progress and he loves speed, and he would like our country to be seen as a progressive country which connects cities to cities, and he will want to see this line built as fast as possible, and he would never want to be held responsible for slowing it down. Indeed. So as